Hello you beautiful bastards and welcome to my so-called show. Okay, I've already reviewed this movie and while I didn't totally love it as much as everyone else did,
Boo this man!
I still praised the acting, the haunting visuals of Nikki in silhouette, the hauntingly dreamy synth score, and of course Indy Navarrette's hilarious yet intense movie-stealing performance.
No, 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 don't do it!
But after the absolute crap that has been this summer blockbuster season and the fact Indy Navarrette has been gaining a lot of attention for the right reasons,
What message would you give to your fans that come?
Oh my god, I love you guys. I love you, I deeply love you. And for the ones that know, they know. And all I have to say is basura, and if they know what that means, then they are the real ones.
take note, Ziegler and Mouthcock. And the fact this has continued to kill it at the box office weeks, maybe months after its release. I figured, hey, why don't I give this another chance and hopefully see if I may love this more than I originally did. So, crazy possessed silhouetted ladies and simpy regretful bear-like gentlemen, this is Obsession. Again. So in case you don't know the plot already, Obsession tells the tale of Bear, played by Michael Johnson, who is totally in love with Nikki, played by Indy Navarrete, to the point it becomes an obsession.
He said it!
But after hearing she's about to take another job somewhere, he decides to buy her a gift, leading him to walk into one of those hippie stores looking for something, but ends up buying something called a one-wish willow, and sadly he strikes out on declaring his love for her, so in despair he breaks the willow, wishing Nikki would love him more than anything else in the world. Assuming the willow was a gimmick that doesn't work, he gets a big sexy surprise when all of a sudden she seems to be madly in love with him. And I use the word madly strongly as she starts giving off don't stick your dick in crazy vibes, leading to Bear to find a way to undo the wish.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
And fuck me sideways, I have misjudged this movie. After the second watch, I did start to see certain scenes in a different light. The foreshadowing from the woman selling the wishbone, the hints that Bear's friend had actually shagged Nikki in the past.
You lucky bastard!
And I even started to see that some of my nitpicks here were pretty inaccurate.
I'm retarded?
I know. In the last review I commented on Nikki laying the crazy on a little too early, but rewatching this I realised it was the real Nikki and obsessed Nikki clashing, so it did pretty much make sense. I even complained about Bear not being too smart when she did start acting crazy, but rewatching this, it does make sense. He thinks she's like this because she told him her dad was dying and he's going through a rough time, and even his friends suspected she was on Molly. Hell, even earlier in the movie he suggested Bear should call her Freaky Nikki, further hinting that she's had a history that pretty much contradicts the idea of perfection Bear has built up about her.
Let me just say, you are putting the pussy up on this pedestal. You're just building the pussy up, man.
And it also makes sense that he would end up being more inclined to go along with the lie after she started to come across normalish, because she even said she was on drugs to him, because we are also guilty ourselves of putting aside our skepticism of someone we weren't keen on when they occasionally toned down whatever it was that made us skeptical of them. And because his obsession with Nikki is so powerful, then of course someone as desperate and obsessed as Bear would be in denial, even when he knows deep down he should be fucking legging it out of there. And also because of this.
Emotionally unstable women are fantastic in the sack.
But this is a flawed man who's shown at the beginning to be unstable, someone who's allowed his fixation to cloud his judgment, and as Nikki becomes even more unstable, he does start to realise how unstable it is to be obsessed with someone, which does give him the character development to make him more sympathetic. And even later on, he desperately tries and begs for normal Nikki to come back at the price of being friend-zoned again. And that's how Michael Johnson really does a good job selling the desperation and utter terror he has plunged both he and Nikki into. And there's even a few times he shows he can be charming once he gets over his nerves, which may be the one reason why Sarah is into Bear, which I will touch on later. But back to Nikki. Indy Navarrette's performance might have just made it into one of my favourite scary performances, highlighting both the emotional and mental toll the wish has taken on her as the mysterious possession strips Nikki of her free will. And the fact she shows hints of actually being conscious the whole time just only adds a more horrific layer to what she's going through. But there's also an ambiguity to the possession of Nikki, Is this a demonic spirit that has possessed her? Because the way at times possessed Nikki came across like an infant born to love instinctually, but is still naive to the more complex aspects of love itself. Whenever Bear started to show signs he was becoming more emotionally distant to Nikki, Nikki would pout and throw a tantrum like a baby who doesn't realise what she's done wrong. And I also like how it uses Nikki's ambitions to be a writer to tell these incredibly fucked up stories and even blurt out incredibly disturbing monologues when she becomes aggressive, further highlighting it knows Nikki, or could be Nikki, despite being a separate personality. And I also give credit to the fact that even when she becomes more violent and does horrific things, she still plays possessed Nikki as a tragic character who just wants to be loved and doesn't realise what she's doing is wrong, because love from this guy is all she was created for. It's all she knows. The wish for her to love Bear more than anything in the world feels consistent to her more violent, psychotic, murderous outbursts, when the very thing that gives her meaning is threatened. And because Bear wished she loved him more than anything in the world, then Bear becomes her only priority, to the point her own well-being never once crosses her mind. I mean, for fuck's sake, the moment Bear leaves for his job, she stands in the same spot for hours, pissing and shitting herself, which further shows how this ordeal is becoming more and more messed up. Then the rug Nikki evacuated her bowels on. But there is also another theory on that, which suggests something most viewers may have missed, and definitely one I missed until someone pointed it out, and that is the reflection. Apparently, whenever possessed Nikki catches her reflection, the real Nikki pops out, which does actually make sense to why possessed Nikki chooses to stay in the corner during the night, away from the mirror that faces opposite them, which also gives Curry Barker an excuse to utilise those dark shadows, and could also be the second reason why she avoids the bathroom when she needs to go, because later on, when she does go to clean up, she lets out that blood-curdling scream.
That was scary.
And I will give some praise to Megan Lawless as well for a more affable performance as Sarah, who is probably the more, well, likeable of the gang. And while she was the least interesting, Lawless still managed to show some charm while also being the one most sympathetic to Bear. But rewatching this, I did start to wonder if maybe she does actually like Bear and see the good in him, or maybe him not being interested in her that way might be part of it. Just as Nikki didn't see Bear that way, which caused Bear to become more obsessed with Nikki.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Which touches more on the idea of people wanting what they can't have, but when they're alone together, Bear and Sarah do seem to have some good chemistry, further adding to the tragedy of Sarah's fate. Some people ask if Nikki knew Bear liked her, and to be honest, I think she did, and she was kind of leading him on a tiny bit. There has been some YouTubers propping this up as some toxic male incel thing that paints Bear as the full villain and Nikki as the victim, and well, kinda, but she was not Angel either. As we found out later, she mentioned to Sarah that she saw Bear as a brother, which led me to the conclusion she pretty much had it figured out, that he liked her and did pretty much lead him on when she could have just been up front and told him. Would it have destroyed Bear? Well, yeah. Would he have become more unstable? Who knows? But the film does drop hints at how flawed Nikki is as well. She's estranged from her father, which means daddy issues. She's quitting her job to be a writer, which might not be the smartest thing to do for now. Not only that, Bear's friend Ian advises him to call her Freaky Nikki, hinting more that they've been bumping uglies a few times, and she is more into guys like Ian, guys who aren't over-emotional, obsessive, clingy simps. And as for Ian himself, he pretty much does have women figured out a lot more than Bear has. He knows women usually lie about what they like about men. And I've known plenty of women who have made claims that they prefer, guys to be this and guys to be that, but end up going for the opposite. I've got friends who would be the first to admit they're assholes, but they got laid. A lot. I used to be Bear back in my youth, and I barely got any, until I learned not putting the pussy on the pedestal is the way.
This is the way.
Is it sexist for me to say? Yeah, but sorry, life is not a politically corrected vagina entitled femtard fantasy.
Women, know your limits.
Women will always be women, the same way men will always be men. Does that mean we shouldn't love and pursue a meaningful relationship? No, because there are some good women out there that are actually consistent and do have standards and prefer men who are decent, the same way not all guys are womanizers and philanderers. But there's still people out there like Bear that still need some guidance in order to pursue a healthy, meaningful relationship. Hell, it's pretty much established at the beginning Bear doesn't have a healthy outlook on love or relationships. But back to Ian, after rewatching this I did start to wonder if he's trying to cock-block Bear a little bit, because he pretty much advises him to call her Freaky Nikki. Maybe it was for Bear to ruin his chances with her so Ian could continue sleeping with her, or maybe he did think it would work for Bear only for it to not work for Bear, since he's not really that kind of a guy. And even if Bear did end up with Nikki, would Ian and Nikki still be shagging behind Bear's back? Also, what did the Willow customer service caller mean by "do you want to speak with her"? I'm sure there's more questions that I've overlooked and other details that can be touched on further on the live stream, and writing this I came to another conclusion of what this movie also touches on. Honesty. Because the characters aren't honest enough with each other. Bear should have been more honest with Nikki about his feelings towards her. Nikki should have been more honest to Bear about how she feels towards him, as well as being honest about her and Ian. Ian should have been more honest to Bear about Nikki riding his love stick a fair few times.
Oh my.
Sarah should have been more honest to Bear about her feelings towards him. If all this had happened, maybe none of this crazy shit would have happened. It's why I think Bear being the villain isn't totally wrong, but at the same time he's not the only one who's at fault. And it's these things I touched on that makes it easy to see why this movie is still killing it at the box office, even with its release on digital. It shows Cory Barker is a director that knows what he's doing, as rewatching this again has highlighted the actual thought he's put into the writing and characterisation. And for a man so young, Cory Barker has shown more maturity and competence in his direction in the last couple of months than fucking Rian Johnson has in the last 20 years. And since YouTube continues to flood my feed with people throwing their own theories on this movie, it goes to show that obsession truly has become an obsession. And whether you beautiful bastards are Northern English or not, thanks for watching, but right now, that's me done and I'm off to the pub.